Hey guys, Ralph here from the Endgame Investor, and we're on a new episode of the Bitter Endgame Draft with my friend Phil Lowe, who has his own Rumble channel, and he's a star on Liberty and Finance now. Phil's up and coming, and he's gonna probably replace me when I retire. Maybe.
No.
No? Okay. I'm looking forward to retirement. I don't know what I'm gonna do after the Endgame, but I might travel some and become a real estate mogul or something like that.
Get a monocle.
I'll have two monocles. I already have two monocles.
One of those.
In fact, I think I better put on a monocle.
It's even better than one monocle.
You're so wealthy you can afford both eyes.
Yeah, yeah. This is the proof that I'm already set. I've got two monocles.
Wouldn't two monocles be bifocals though?
I think those are like quadrifocals because they have two
Quadrifocal.
focals in each eyeball.
Yeah, they'd be quadrifocal because it's one eye each and then two. Anyway, we're getting off track. This is
I
a
think this
terrible
is totally
introduction.
on track. Yeah, so Phil's going to introduce the show. He said he was going to be late because he had to shave, so I hope he looks nice and smooth. I trimmed my beard slightly just to be on his level.
Hmm? 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 Smooth as a baby's behind. Papa. Papa, papa.
You can't really notice it because I did the highest setting, but I think it looks better.
You
Anyway,
look great.
introduce the show. So, Phil, what are we talking about this week?
All right, so we have three subjects for today: the spectrum of money with regards to barter, how the logical understanding of money walks a very specific path, and straying from that path even slightly leads to Crazytown understandings of money. And then the third one is the boomtown phenomenon. When gold and silver gets flooded into certain areas, how it acts like a massive inflationary pulse, and why that doesn't mean that gold and silver are flawed monies.
All right. So, the spectrum of money. As someone who might be on the spectrum, I that's what people tell me. I don't know. I think everyone's on the spectrum these days, because of the bad food or whatever it is. So, tell me about the spectrum of money. I think we talked about this because somebody sent you a question of what happens if all the gold is gone or we can't mine any more gold, and the basically the point being that the point that I wanted to hammer home on this is actually very important, that there's no qualitative difference between barter and money transactions other than the degree of liquidity. And what we want when we trade is more liquidity than we want directly the thing that we want to trade for, because liquidity ensures that we can eventually get the thing that we want, whereas getting the thing that we want directly is very difficult. But the progression of money, the logical progression of where money comes from, is very important to understand, because we have two camps. We have the statist camps, the Keynesians and all their other ilk, that want to imagine that money is an invention of the state, and therefore without the state there'd be no money. And we have to thank the state for all the amazing economy that we have, because without the state we'd just be reduced to barter. And our side, the Austrian side and other allies, hold that money is an organic process and everything starts with barter, and money came out of that, and therefore we have to thank the free market for money. And the state came out of the wealth that the free market, where money came from, was invented, and then started stealing everything.
So, if money is a spectrum, there's obviously a clear delineation when something becomes a money, because everyone's like, "Oh, I want money." And when I say I want money, they know what, wherever you are, they know what that means. So, if you're in a caveman society that's using seashells and you say, "I want money," they know you mean, "I want seashells." Whereas we would say right now, when I say I want money, what I want is green paper notes for gold. So what is like is there an effect that causes the clear delineation, or is the spectrum remains fluid throughout? Like, does something click and become a money?
I don't think there is ever a click. There's no one click. It's like the date counter on your watch, right? As you get closer and closer to the 24-hour period, it slowly rolls over. And then does it roll over at 11:55? Does it roll over at 12:05? I mean, or 12 o'clock exactly. No, I don't think there is one point. It becomes generally accepted, and the more generally accepted, then the more it's known as money. But theoretically, even now, someone could say, like, I want money for, I'm going to sell my house for money, and they could theoretically even say, I want Bitcoin or I want gold ounces, and they don't mean dollars. We're already starting to see we're entering into a society where when people say money, the fact that we're having this discussion and people are watching it and we're discussing what the definition of money is means that it's already starting to fray because people see that the dollar isn't really working as it's supposed to.
Yeah, and they're looking for alternatives. Yeah.
Mm.
So the if the liquidity, so this is where this silver, I've heard lots of people say there's not enough silver to remonetize, that silver's, the above ground, I think is what, 9 to 1 to gold. Oh no, the in ground is coming out 9 to 1 to gold, and the above ground available is, I think, actually less than the gold supply right now. So the question then is, if there's not enough silver, what happens? And people are worried about zombie apocalypse. I'm much more confident that if you follow the Austrian school, you understand that a money will always form. So that means we're talking about, I think we're talking about remonetized copper as well. So we're going to have remonetized gold, silver, and probably copper too.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the amount is totally irrelevant to anything. What makes something liquid, part of what makes something the most liquid commodity is that there is enough of it to go around. Whatever that amount happens to be doesn't really matter. What I'm more interested in is that tweet that you sent that I quote tweeted. I'm going to see if I can pull it up.
Sure.
Um,
But if there's not enough silver, so the benefit of silver is that you can actually trade coins. Like if I want gas, I can go give them some coins for the gas, whereas gold is just too high powered for that. But if there's not enough silver to make coinage, then the only way to use silver would be to have credit derivatives like we do with gold. And so that I'm thinking if people, if we're in a period of time, especially right at the end game when people do not trust notes at all, and you have to hand over money, you're going to have to hand over silver. Or if there's not enough silver, I think people are going to regress back to copper.
yeah, well, they will. If there's not enough silver, they'll have to.
Yeah, I mean, silver, and for the viewer, silver will absolutely still be money. It will stay monetized, but it's going to be so valuable that it's going to be so rare, at least temporarily, until they can get more into circulation that it's going to be too a couple silver coins might buy 10 gallons, 10 tanks of gas instead of, filling up your gas tank. So you don't want to give the gas station attendant 10 tanks of gas worth of coinage. So people might use copper instead just to fill that need.
Right. But once non-monetary silver, if there's not enough silver, once non-monetary silver gets melted down into monetary usage, then the price of silver should go down to a point where it becomes the perfect or around the perfect value for retail transactions, and then you'll use silver
Yeah.
again. And then after you have people have to understand this, like after the end game, after the monetary system as we know it ceases to be, we're gonna have to circulate physical raw money, not data for it, not derivatives of it. I can actually take the thing and give it to another person, and they're gonna have to give you something else. That's gonna be the closest thing to barter is one real thing for another real thing, right? Instead of data representing a thing or backed by a thing, you're gonna have the raw physical money. And after that, once there's enough raw money going around the economy, this big enough base, then you can start building a credit derivative system again. And hopefully this time it will be honest, but it probably won't be, but it'll start off that way, and then we'll go through this whole process again, unless the Mashiach comes and God circumcises our heart and we become different beings, which it's possible. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are.
I didn't know the heart could be circumcised.
I think it's figurative, and if it's literal, we'll all have serious problems.
So let me ask you this. Wait, what was I going to ask you? I had a very important question, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay, don't worry. I'll edit this out,
Okay.
or maybe I
No,
won't just leave
you're
it
gonna leave
in.
this.
And cut.
So I have a question for you, Rafi.
Mhm.
If we need to hand over physical silver, and we go back to monetary barter or monetary exchange, I should say, not direct monetary exchange, does it matter if it is official coinage in the Austrian sense? Does it matter if it's official coinage or if it's rounds or bars, as long as the denomination is small enough? I think it does not matter, and I'm curious what you have to say.
On principle, it shouldn't matter enough for it to really matter. Because as I was saying before, and as we should all understand, money predates the state. I have a very important post on this on Endgame Investor on Substack. I'll put a link to it in the description, where I explain the evolution of this. It could matter in a very minor way. That if you hand somebody like an old dime or a half dollar and it's recognizable and they see what it is, then they won't have to check it, or so it'll make checking cheaper. But it could be that a lot of fake half dollars or quarters will be going around also, so you may have to check it anyway, so it might not even matter at all. But it will matter in terms of just emotional comfort that people will see this old money, and they'll understand that it used to work, and it might have a little bit of a premium over a round that somebody doesn't recognize. Um, in that sense, it could matter, but in terms of from the fact that silver as money predates the state, it shouldn't matter all that much if you have rounds or constitutional U.S. silver. It will make a difference if you have, like, a fork or a spoon or something. That's going to be less of a premium. So that's why people would be melting these things down into monetary shaped things to capture that premium, but it shouldn't matter that much.
A friend of mine bought a silver silverware set at a garage sale for like $4 or $5, and he's like, man, I really lucked out. So I went to his house and we magnet tested him, and they all just went click.
It could be plated. Could be
Yeah,
plated.
it's plated is what it was. So he did not luck out, at least
Okay.
not much. There is some
Uh,
silver in there, but not very much.
plated silverware is, it's nice. I have a set that we got from some garage sale that somebody gave to me. I didn't go to the garage sale, but you should know that you shouldn't put these things in the dishwasher. You got to wash them by hand, or the plate
Come
will
right off.
dissolve. All right,
So I think as far as counterfeiting, I think official coinage is much more likely to be counterfeited than a round or a
Hmm.
bar, because you can get the like right now, what does a silver eagle go for? $50 right now? Something close to 50, right?
I don't think it's
So
that much, is it?
it's not, or maybe 40, but there is a significant premium over a round, over a cheap
Yeah.
round. So if I'm going to go to the trouble of making a press and making, a silver plated tungsten coin, I'm going to go for the moon and go for the silver eagle rather than just make a generic round of plated tungsten, because I can get more dollars for that.
I see an eagle. I see that an eagle hovers over you. But I also see that you yourself are the eagle.
Hmm.
And in the end game, the premium will probably still exist to some level, so I can get more stuff trying to pass off a fake money.
Okay, I wanted to share this screen. This is the tweet that you sent out.
Ah, yes.
And this is actually very important for getting down to the base of what the Keynesians and other fake economists are trying to make us believe. And this is um, like religious tenets, even as close to that. It's not religion, but you have to understand that they're trying to get down into the base of the understanding of money so that they can justify stealing from you. And this is what you have to be careful of. So as long as you understand this point, you won't be fooled. So it says from an old Atlantic article, right? And the Atlantic, we know, is full of crap. Everything they said about COVID was full of crap, and they're full of ideological leftist nonsense. And this is just another iteration of that, but it's a lot more insidious because it doesn't sound like it, but it definitely is. So he quotes this part from the Atlantic article. Phil says, quoting, no ethnographic studies have shown that any present or past society has used barter without any other medium of exchange or measurement, and anthropologists have found no evidence that money emerged from barter. Nevertheless, economists since the time of Adam Smith often imagined pre-modern societies as examples to use the inefficiency of barter to explain the emergence of money, of the economy, and hence of the discipline of economics itself. So I'll read Phil's response to this, and then I'll give my own comments on what this is trying to do and the insidiousness of this comment from the Atlantic. So Phil says, my question is, how would anyone know? If 15,000 years ago I traded you a bushel of berries for a goat, what evidence would there be that we ever made this trade? Forget about making it without a monetary medium. And Phil, you're right. This is all a bunch of crap. There wouldn't be much evidence of barter because it's not recordable that well on a ledger, which is why you try to get away from it as fast as possible with any good that is more liquid than the one you're trying to trade for, right? So even in the immediate aftermath of a terrible end game, we money would emerge very quickly. First of all, because it's available, and and second of all, because nobody wants to trade directly for anything because that means everyone's going to die. So the only time when barter would have been uh, the least bit extant for any respectable amount of time would be at the dawn of human civilization, where almost no commodities are available at all because people haven't even invented shovels yet. And how long ago was that? We're talking about Bronze Age. Like, what evidence would there be for any barter? There wouldn't be. So the point is here that this quote is trying to prove that that the people that think, or trying to show that the people that think that money is natural are all uh, they're all wrong, and money must come from the state, and therefore if money comes from the state, the dollar is money, and therefore they have the right to print it, and seigniorage and government theft becomes part of the economy, and without the state there would be no economy. That's what they're trying to justify, right? But the fact is, logically speaking, if you have a bunch of people, they're not going to come into an agreement and say, look, we can't trade unless we give all the power of trade to this one guy who's going to make all these tickets for all of us, and then we're going to trade the tickets, and then you're not going to starve, and I'm going to have my house, and you're going to have your berries, and I'm going to have my goat, and we'll just trust this guy not to screw with anything. That's a bunch of nonsense that never ever happens. What happens is there is one commodity, people start trading, it doesn't work very well, and then other liquid commodities come in, and people start trading for the more liquid commodities because it's much easier to trade for a more liquid commodity than it is to find what you need directly. And this is how it has to happen. And then a state comes in and says, well, give me the liquid commodity and I'll give you paper for it, and then you can trade my paper. And then he prints more paper than he has the commodity, and he starts stealing. That's what happens every time. That's how theft evolves. You have to understand this, and that money has to emerge from barter, whether or not we have evidence of it. We wouldn't have evidence of it because nobody wants to do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
The only evidence I can think of would be something that's like you would not normally be able to get yourself. So like if you're in like medieval Poland and you have like silk from China, somehow that's China made. Somehow that silk made it all the way over. But that just means you traded for it. That doesn't mean you bartered for it. You still could have given them money. So you'd have to find the Polish coins in China to say they did money. But I mean, I have no way to show that you traded a goat for those silks.
It's a logical point. It's not an
Yeah,
empirical
I know.
Yeah. It's a,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is my next video is on this very topic. Yes, it is absolutely a logical point that the money must spring from barter. There is no other place it could spring from. It's not a conscious decision that we're all going to sit around and agree on what a money is.
Yeah. So that's why the very difficulty in defining what a money is, and that everyone disagrees on it, is it's self-evidence that it's a spectrum, right? There are more and less liquid commodities in an economy. And when someone says he wants money, he's saying that he wants the most or the among the top liquid commodities. You can have two monies. You can have a gold and silver money circulating at the same time. We've had that before, where you have two most liquid commodities, and copper. You can have three at the same time circulating. You can in principle have any amount, but money is going to be one commodity or a group of commodities that are generally considered the most liquid. Why? Because if you can get some of that liquid commodity, you can be relatively certain that its value will not fluctuate so wildly that you can make a basic calculation of how much of this commodity you need in order to meet your needs, not only tomorrow, but 2 days from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. And more or less, it'll have a similar value, not exactly as it is today. It's always going to change. But the reason why we want the money is because we want to know with a fair amount of certainty how much stuff we can afford to get for ourselves with this thing that is liquid. Whereas we won't be able to do that with an illiquid commodity, which would be like a house or a cow or a grapevine, or a field of grapevines, or whatever it is. What we've established is there is no qualitative difference between a barter economy and a money economy other than degree.
And a money will always emerge because actually definitionally, because it is whatever the most liquid commodity is. So as long as you have multiple commodities trading in a system, the most liquid one is by definition the money.
Yeah, so you just have to recognize, as human nature, we want liquidity more than we want what we want directly. I mean, that's like people want to hoard money. Why? Because it gives you a certain amount of emotional comfort knowing that you can, in theory, acquire XYZ, and it's much more comfortable having that than having all this stuff, all of your needs now, and then not having any money at all to buy anything with. You'll have to sell what you have. If there's an emergency, you'll have to sell some of what you have in order to
Cheaply too.
buy other things that you need later. So you need some money because you don't know what your needs are going to be, but at least you know with a fair amount of certainty that this commodity isn't going to change value that much relative to anything else that I might need. I don't even know what that's going to be.
So this flows directly into our second topic. I almost said septic topic, but
Oh, we could talk
so
about septic topics too.
Barker flushed the toilet in the den, so the septic tank is overflowing. Not on the lawn!
the how the logical understanding of money walks a very specific path, and straying from that path even slightly leads to crazy town understandings of money. And I got this inspiration. A viewer sent me a heresy financial video and said, "What do you think of this?" And I've watched Joe Brown many, many times. I disagree with him on his understanding of money, but he starts. So I watched. It was a 15-minute video. He starts exactly first 7 minutes. He sounds just like you and me. It's like gold was money. People traded gold. Dollars are derivative of gold. There's too many dollars in the system. Went off the gold window, and then at the 7 minute mark, and then we took away the gold, and now the dollars are money directly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no,
Everybody,
no,
okay.
no, no, no.
No.
And
Yeah.
so, and then really everything after that 7 minute mark went straight into Crazytown,
Mhm.
and people don't realize how pernicious this is. Milton Friedman is probably the best example of this because Milton Friedman, when I went to George Mason University, um, a lot of the Austrian school people there did not like Milton Friedman. And I did not understand, I was 18, 19, 20. I didn't understand. I didn't even really know what Austrian school was. I just was getting my degree to get a degree to get at, and the stuff was getting in, but I wasn't like a passionate Austrian economist at the time. So,
Wow.
I'd listened to
I
Milton
didn't know
Friedman.
that.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I wanted to go to University of Virginia and they turned me down. So I ended up at George Mason, purely
Wow. So
by,
you're like one of those Talmidei Chachamim that went to yeshiva, didn't really like it, didn't really, but got really good at Gemara, and then you ended up like an amazing rabbi, like
I
genius.
know that
But
weird.
like you didn't really like, you were just trying to get good grades at the time, but now like you're really close to God or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's almost exactly right. I just was like, oh, okay, I guess this is economics,
All
but
right.
what's funny is I got the Austrian education, and then, I hear non-Austrians speaking economics. I was like, what are you people talking about? So the Austrians at that school did not like Milton Friedman. I would listen to him. It's like, he sounds exactly like us. What are you people talking about?
Yes, but the flaws are underneath and they are pernicious.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're very deep, and you wouldn't a normal person could never understand that. You have to put in like the 10,000, that you have to put in 10,000 hours to get good at something. You have to put in the 10,000 hours to understand the difference between someone like Milton Friedman and someone like Murray Rothbard. And the problem is Milton Friedman was the one on TV. Like they could have
Yeah.
dug Murray
He was
Rothbard
on
out of the,
TV for a reason, but you know what? There's a
yeah.
shortcut. There's a shortcut. You can know that he's not kosher. Why? Because, this is what the Austrians say about him. Just look, he's the one who came up with the withholding tax. Don't you understand? There's something wrong here.
Yes, yes, exactly. Um,
And then you
so
don't have to
the
understand exactly what went wrong, but you know that anyone who could come up with a withholding tax, there's something wrong with his principles here. This isn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was, as I said, he was absolutely no threat to the system. Once you understand him, because he
Mhm.
would get up there and be, oh, we need freedom, we need small government, we need blah 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 blah, but the Federal Reserve needs to be in charge of the money.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what he would say. So what is the problem with that, and why does that make him crazy town?
So if you leave, so there's a logical path we just talked, and you could start with Crusoe economics, right? You're trapped on a desert island. You can pick berries or watch the sunset. and you need to eat, so you pick some berries, and then you spend the rest of your time in leisure watching the sunset. And you decide, you know what, I want a house, but to build a house, I need to put aside some. I need to save. I have to because I can't if I'm not picking berries all the time or watching the sunset, then I'm going to starve. I can't build a house unless I have a savings of berries. So you
Right.
have to pick extra berries, watch the sunset less, and then save those berries to the next day so you can work on the house. That is savings.
Hmm.
The Keynesians, and you can read any textbook in high school, any AP economics or Econ 101 class, and it will say savings equals investment. And that is not true. The reason it's in the textbook is because they want people to invest. The Keynes thought if you buried gold in the back in your backyard, that was destruction. Save that kind of savings was destruction. So
It's
you needed
not.
to invest it in the stock market to, keep the wheels, keep the grease going, right? He
No,
thought
it's
of gold
completely
like,
wrong, but yeah.
yeah, I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that. So the textbook, once you leave that savings of once you leave that chain, once you step off that, you end up in very weird dimensions where money makes no sense basically, and then people abandon it because they said this is not working for me. So the problem is we are dealing because the inflation has lasted so long and hasn't blown up in our faces, we are dealing with a lot of people with a fundamental misunderstanding of money that has proliferated for a very long period of time.
For three
And
generations now, yeah.
3 generations now. So I have family members who, they go to bed wrapped in the American flag. They believe all the principles of the Constitution. They're very liberty minded. But when I try to explain what money is, they just say, no, money is the a note for the production power of the country. That's what
No,
his
it's not. No, it's
yeah
not.
and confidently says it. Calm down, Phil. You're wrong. There's no such thing as an end game. Money is based on the production power of a country. And we're doing fine. Everyone wants our dollars. He's not interested, right? He's not interested in what I have to say at all.
Right.
So because these other ideas are out there and the dollar is not dead yet, these ideas have nourishment and are able to proliferate. And for some reason, they're able to proliferate better than ours in most cases. That
Mhm.
should be a topic for another day. Is why is it like the why does the lie get around the world while the truth is getting its shoes on, as Mark Twain said.
When I say savings equals investment, why is that wrong? What is savings and what is investment and why are they not equal?
Okay, so savings is a prerequisite for investment, but it is not investment itself. If I take the berries, so let me instead of using the berries, let me use a stick because this is what Rothbard used in his book. So to build a house, I need an axe, right? So I take the berries and I set those aside as savings, and then I'm going to take a piece of wood and I'm going to put that aside as well. And I could burn that wood for firewood, but I'm going to put that aside as savings. And then I'm going to take a piece of stone, another piece of stone. I'm going to make a rock axe and then attach it to the wood. The savings was not sitting on the beach, eating berries, watching the sunset. And then the investment was working and then eating the berries while I'm working on the axe so I can build the house, right? So taking the stone, putting it on the axe head did not give me any immediate joy. I got no utility from that because that was time I could have spent sitting on the beach, eating berries, watching the sunset. But because I'm able to see into the future and say, I want a house, this axe, while giving me no immediate utility, is providing me with the opportunity to chop down trees faster to assemble the house. So
Okay,
the
so
axe,
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
basically, so very simply, the savings are the berries, the investment is the axe.
Yes, exactly right. And the materials to make the axe were savings as well, because I could have burned the wood and just not touched the stone, right? So
Okay,
the stone did require investment.
so the berries, they give you units of time because they keep you alive. Now, where you
Yes,
want to invest those units of time that the berries give you, you can invest them in leisure, but that would be consuming them really.
yes,
Or you can invest them in create. You can invest that time that the berries give you into creating the axe, and then you can move up and create a house. But
build a house.
savings is
Exactly right.
not investment. It can't be.
Another idea in a market economy, if we're not trapped on a desert island in a market economy, right? If I am paid in gold and I just keep the gold, I have not invested the gold, but I have saved it, right? It's right
Mhm.
here, this pile of gold is right here in my hand, and I'll bury it in my backyard. That is savings. It's not investment. Now, someone could say, my neighbor could come to me, Phil, I want to start a butcher shop. Would you want to be invested in this? And I'll give you returns, I'll give you some cut of the profits or whatever. Then I could take my savings and give it to him and offer him to invest, right?
Mhm.
That savings is a prerequisite for investment, but it is not equal to investments. S is not equal to I. That is a
Right.
fundamental mistake that is in the textbooks.
Okay. So also, why isn't it that Keynes thought and people like him thought, I don't know if they actually thought this or they just wanted to say things like this because they wanted to get in the good graces of the government and then the government wanted to have a justification for printing more money. And they came up with, and Keynes came up with, oh yeah, of course you want to print more money because it makes everyone richer. Do that. And they're like, oh yeah, you're the best economist. We're gonna hire. So the the reason that burying gold in your backyard is not destructive is specifically because it is the most liquid commodity, that the liquidity of it gives you time to be able to look into your investment options and pick the wisest one, right? Now, if Keynes is saying that if you bury gold in your backyard and you just leave it there, you're destroying the economy because you're hurting investment and you're hurting production. Well, that puts everyone into a frenzy like, oh, I don't want to have any money reserves. I just want to invest everything into capital immediately. And so, Crusoe's building his axe, and he's like, and he gets too many suggestions on the best tools to build a house, and he's like, well, why don't we, try to make a self
Chainsaw.
chopping axe that powers itself, and we're gonna put I have all these berries, like take all of them. As long as you can get me a self-powered axe that floats and chops its own wood and I have to do anything, then that's good. And then you invest all these berries into it and you don't get anything.
Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't work, right?
so, but like if everyone's thinking, oh my God, I got to get these berries out. Well, the berries do go bad, but imagine they're like, freeze dried or something, and
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
go bad. But gold doesn't go bad. So the fact that it is liquid and that it will not go bad is essential for being able to pick and choose which investments are worth putting your savings into and which are not, because they will destroy them. And even the
Yeah, man.
gold itself doesn't get destroyed. I'm not saying that the gold gets destroyed, but if you invest the gold in a waste of time, you end up with less resources than before, because instead of creating something that is worth something, all these guys were trying to make a flying axe, and now there's nothing. And in the meantime, they have to consume food, which led to nothing, and there's less resources now. And so the gold is worth less because they've malinvested it, because there's less resources that exist for the gold to buy, not because the gold changed value, but because there's less stuff.
That's right. Yeah, it does lead to the misallocation of resources. Absolutely.
So the
Yeah.
misallocation of resources is much worse than leaving gold in your backyard totally unproductive, which at least is a safe thing because everyone else is busy creating stuff while your gold is sitting there and gaining value because other people are creating more things, and the gold is sitting there, meaning its purchasing power will slowly increase over time, which is why it's a good money.
So the reason Keynes, I mean, I disagree with the intellectualism behind it, but the what they saw, and this is, I guess, this is an empirical analysis. What they saw was the deflationary crash. They said, "Oh, money is disappearing, and people aren't investing, and all this deflation's happening for several years. And if we can get that gold out of the backyards and into the system, the deflation will stop." That was sort of the
Yeah,
intellectual
but it's not
underpinning of
money
it.
that's it's not money that's disappearing. It's money derivatives that are
The,
disappearing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, the overprinting of the derivatives themselves. Okay, let's move into the other side of that, which is the boomtown phenomenon. And I tried to explain this on Liberty and Finance, and I got a lot of static back. And I think I did not explain it well because I was trying to explain it in the sense of China. I said China because China's maybe has something like 30,000 tons of gold in their central bank vaults or something. And I said it doesn't matter. It really does not matter for the rest of the world. You're just going to live your life and either the gold will leave China and will export to China, or the gold will stay in China and we'll just pretend that gold doesn't exist. But let's go into the boomtown phenomenon to explain what I'm talking about, because even now people are probably confused. So if you imagine two villages, right? Let's go to two caveman villages. There's one here and one there, and they're about equal, and everything's fine, and they all work and trade together, and everyone's friendly. And then village two discovers a gold mine, a big gold mine. And so they start mining gold, and everyone, all the villages around are using gold as the medium of exchange. So they start digging up the gold, and prices go way up in village two because there's a lot more gold fluctuating around.
Hmm.
Village one, the prices are still very low in gold terms. So village two, the villagers of village two start importing stuff from village one and exporting gold.
Hmm.
Right. And so pretty soon, and village one is working, they're slaving away. They're working harder to get those gold. I mean, it's all voluntary. It's not slaving. I shouldn't use that word. They're working hard to get, build more stuff to export to village two. Village two, basically the entire town becomes a gold mining town. So they're all the other industries kind of shut down. Everything's focused on getting gold out of the ground and exporting it to Village One. So Village One can get them supplies for cheaper than they could have done it themselves. So Village Two falls into complete indolence. They forget how to farm. They forget how to build houses. They forget how to blacksmith. The only thing they can do is mine gold and then lay down and wallow in obesity while Village One sends them stuff.
Let me just interject here and continue. It
Go
sounds a
ahead.
lot better than the situation we're in now, where the experts are expert in trying to get government favors and government money, and that's what they're really good at, and poisoning people in the process, and they forgot how to do anything else.
At least they're mining actual gold out of the ground. That is true.
Yeah.
Now eventually the mine, runs out, or there's the amount equilibrates. So Village One has enough, they have gold so that the prices are roughly equal to Village Two, and they don't want to export any more to Village Two. And so now Village Two has a problem because they can't import anymore because no one wants the gold is deep enough now that it's kind of expensive to get to. It's hard to get to, and the stuff is equilibrated, but they've forgotten how to farm, they've forgotten how to do anything. So now in terms of real goods and services, they're in trouble because they forgot how to do that stuff. They have to start from scratch. So they end up in a poorer state. Now they do have all the stuff they've imported, but in terms of making new stuff, they are starting at a much lower level than they were at before.
Mhm.
And this happened to what we are behaving the same way. America is behaving exactly that way right now. We're just using fake gold. We're pretending we're writing notes for the gold and sending that out and importing all the stuff.
Right.
And so we're not manufacturing anything. We're not producing good movies.
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay. Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her name it gay.
We're not, making good products and services anymore. We're just sort of, write another check, have another pina colada.
I can practically taste those pina coladas already. Right, sweetheart?
Help! He's trying to kidnap me!
Go into debt a little more, And so when this stops, we're going to be at a much lower level of production than we were used to.
We don't even know how to stop fires anymore.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord.
Sorry.
And as a society, we're going to have to work our way back up from a much lower level. If China has the gold that people say they have, the same phenomenon will happen to them. They're going to say, geez, washing machines are expensive here. Those Americans they started making washing machines again, and they are dirt cheap. I'm going to import an American washing machine instead of paying sky-high gold prices for this Chinese washing machine. And so the trade flows are going to reverse until all the excess gold flows out of China, and then the system equilibrates. During that process, all the Chinese companies are going to go bankrupt because they have the gold, so everything's sky high, and they cannot sell to their domestic market, and they cannot export because the prices are rock bottom on the export markets. So if the government says, oh, you know what, we're not allowing international trade, we're going to keep the gold in China, then that's fine. In gold terms, prices stay low in the rest of the world, and prices stay high in China. So the only difference, because the only value gold has is for jewelry, the only non-monetary value, the Chinese will have a lot more jewelry. There'll be a lot more gold necklaces and gold watches and stuff in China, but that's really it. And we can live with less gold watches and gold jewelry. It's not, your life will not be really critically hampered in any way by not having access to that quantity of gold.
Yeah, yeah. So look, bottom line, if they have all the gold, either they will use it or they will not use it. If they will not use it, it may as well not exist. If they will use it, then we will trade our stuff for their gold, and then we will have what they have now. And then we'll be able to use that to invest further production. I don't why is everyone so concerned about the amount of gold that China has? I understand why they're concerned because they have this sort of spiritual weird idea of what money is, and it represents power to them, and so they kind of like make a bridge between, oh, they have 30,000 tons, they're going to be in charge of the world. But no, the thing that I try to clear up is it's not the amount of money that gives you the sort of power that America has over the world now, which is waning. What gives you that power is the power to inflate over that gold. And in order to have the power to inflate over that gold, you have to demonstrate that you have it first for many years, and that you have it and you're good for it. And then after that, you can start inflating. And it took America hundreds of years to get to that point. And now that we've got to that point around the 1920s, 30s, especially after World War II, we were there. And ever since, we've been printing up the wazoo and destroying that reputation. And when it's gone, it's not like China's going to be able to come back and start being the inflator in chief immediately after America falls. First, the entire world's going to fall, and then we're going to have a base of gold and silver. And then whoever is the best at being honest and productive might end up having the opportunity to inflate later, but it's going to be a long time from now.
Yeah, the other thing was post World War II, like the rest of the world was pretty much in ashes. I mean, Germany was blown back to the Stone Age, England was broke, Russia was in, the USSR, China was under Soviet control. I mean, everything looked really
Everything
bad.
was a basket case except the United States.
So if right now there's 3 or 4 different polar centers, right? There's America, China, Russia, Europe, maybe the Middle East, maybe. If we're all competing for that spot of the world reserve currency and none of us have some sort of, clear cut advantage, then it will be a competitive, and then there won't be that inflationary pulse. The inflation comes from one single party being the dominant power.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's going to trust the Chinese. Nobody trusts China.
No, yeah, no. She's invading. Oh yeah, these yuan are definitely good for gold, but you can't have it yet. Well, we're about to open it, 6 months later or whatever. Yeah. No, and the other thing is, people talk about our resources being misallocated. I mean, China has cities that nobody lives in, and they have, but they have high-speed rail. Yeah, they have high-speed rail to cities that nobody lives in, and not only nobody lives in them, nobody can live in them because those buildings start falling apart the second they're
the
finished.
only thing better than a bridge to nowhere is a high-speed rail to nowhere.
Yeah. So the thought that like we're going to collapse and that China's gonna, the Chinese are gonna rise up. Now is our moment in this. No. They're collapsing. They're probably going to collapse harder than us because the command-driven state economy has never outperformed ever an economy of freedom. Even as even as non-freedom as our economy is, it is still not, state communism.
Right.
So we are not going to be replaced by China. If the CCP survives this, I will be quite shocked.
Yeah. China does not, the nature of the Chinese, and I guess I'm saying this in a sort of racist way, but I have no other way to say it because, but the nature of a Chinese nation is not to lead anything. They always follow. They copy, they follow, they make bad copies of things. They make extreme copies of things. They copied the USSR and ended up with Mao's Great Famine. They copy the US and they end up with these cheap goods or, these like cheap factories, which, works now in the inflationary environment. But everything they do is essentially copying. There's no originality in their culture.
Is that a function of the culture? Or is that a function of the fake money?
I think it's a function of both, and they're kind of like twisting in on each other and making it stronger. But
So I'm curious. I was having this conversation about the Congolese. There's this movie called The Empire of Dust, where the Chinese are trying to build this like copper mine or something in the middle of the Congo, and it's just this giant boon. It's part of the Belt and Road Initiative. This is the part I was talking about with Dunnigan. The It's just a total boondoggle, right? The Chinese send these resources into the Congo, these investment resources to get this copper mine going, and it just disappears into the Congo, right? They order 36 trucks full of gravel for the road, and 2 trucks show up, and they're like, "Well, where are the other 34 trucks?" "Oh, I don't know. My cousin drove
they're having a
them."
gravel party.
Yeah. And all the investment goods are just disappearing into the corruption of the Congo. And I said, the African currencies are the farthest away from the dollar, so they are constantly in a state of hyperinflation. And if you live in a constant state of hyperinflation, you don't save. There's nothing to save in. There's no way to save. So what do? You just consume. You live for the day. You get your day's wage. You go spend it on beer and women. Then you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again because there's nothing else to do.
Actually, I think
So
they save in cattle. I think that's what they do.
cattle, yeah, okay, but
Yeah.
it's hard to save, right? That's the point. It's hard to save.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if we are on a gold standard, if the whole world's back on a gold standard, what these countries will look like. And I think they will look much better. It makes no sense that they would look worse.
Yeah, you need someone to lead monetarily, with a liberty mindset. America has the potential, but they're going to have to go through like a really bad flu before they get out of the other side. And you know, as as much of a basket case and as embarrassing as Israel is, we also have that potential to lead in terms of the ideas. And I'm hoping that in the end game, we have enough people over here to keep the ideas straight in our heads, so that whenever society reorganizes itself, it reorganizes with the proper ideas, which is where I see my place here. I don't lead the world, but I'm hoping I can influence in the ideas, to keep them straight, so that when people are done with their monetary flu and they've had their convulsions and their vomiting and all that. I can say, hey guys, now you might want to listen. How about this? All right.
Well, good luck, Rafi, and we'll
Yeah. You
guess we'll
handle it
call
over
there.
there, I'll handle it over here, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. Like the Azores. We could go to the Azores.
We
That
meet in
sounds
the
like fun.
Azores. There you
Okay.
go.
All right.
All right. That covers it for today.
Yeah, have a good day, Phil.
Dude, take care, man.
Bye bye.